Welcome back to the channel. And before we go anywhere today, I'd like you to hit that like button, press subscribe, and do all that good stuff. And now I am joined by the Pike Man, Brian Moore, today. How are you doing today, Brian Moore?
I'm very good, Andy. Hope all is well with you, man.
I'm doing great. You've got a big fight coming up against Jornel Lugo, the number 9 ranked bantamweight in Bellator on the main card of Bellator 275, Friday the 25th of February 2022. How are you feeling about it all? Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's been a long time since I got the fight in Dublin and fight in Ireland. So that's number one. That's like I cannot wait. I've been chomping at the bit for this to come back around time and again. Injuries, fighting elsewhere has kind of forced me off cards. But we're back in a big show and I cannot wait. Bellator for the first time said, "Who do you want to fight?" And I said Jornel Lugo, and I asked for Jornel because I think stylistically it makes a fantastic fight. I think we match up very well, and I want to, me, I want to fight the best guys out there, and Jornel is certainly one of them. So I'm looking forward to it. I feel like I have a lot to prove, and what better way than to prove these things against someone as high quality as Jornel.
What was it about Jornel that stood out to you? Why did you choose him as your next opponent?
Well, look, he's number 9. I was in the rankings. Inactivity forced me out of them. Beating him will put me back in the rankings, and I wasn't too concerned about the rankings. But Bellator seemed to put a lot of effort and thought into these. So, with an 8-man tournament, you're beating number 9. It's a good move, but more so that we're back in Ireland, we're back in front of the best fight fans in the world. And I think when you put two guys such as myself and Jornel, you're going to see fireworks. I think he's very tactical, he's very technical, as am I, and I think that when you put our both styles together, it's going to produce a hell of a fight.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it, and I think the entire crowd will be on its feet for it. I want to talk, Brian. You're obviously coming off a loss to Nikita Mikhailov in your last time out in Russia, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that fight and some of the posts you put out there around your mental health and things like that. But first, there was a photo, and I'll put it up on screen for anyone watching. It was, I think, Lee Hamilton Cooper took a couple of photos where you just come backstage after the loss. And he kind of captured this moment of you on the phone, calling home and calling your daughters. Like, I just found it was an incredible photo, and it kind of gave an insight into, those moments that we don't often see after you leave the cage. What are the emotions like when you're phoning home after a loss like that?
It's kind of very hard to talk about my emotions then, because I feel so much different now than I did than I did for the lead up to that fight. I had some things that happened personally. I had 2 incidents. I brought up a lot of things from when I was a younger man, and I didn't really know how to deal with them, to be perfectly honest. I never spoke to a professional about it. I tried to tough my way out of it, and during that training camp, I distracted myself as best I could with training, but even at that, I couldn't focus on my training. I was consumed by these things that were going on in my life, and again, I couldn't separate them. I couldn't focus on the task at hand. But I kind of done enough to kind of tough through it. But then when I arrived in Russia, all of a sudden I was away from my family. I had no training, and I was in a hotel room, and there was no escaping it. There was no escaping these thoughts that were in my mind, and these things that I had buried for many years, and they just came to the surface. And when I was in Russia, it was a rough time for me. I went 50, I think it was 51 or 2 hours without sleep. I couldn't, I was having panic attacks. I just felt dreadful, and I never felt to that extreme before with these things. And, then you can see like my demeanor and the weigh-ins and interviews. I just was kind of blank. I didn't feel like myself, and I didn't really have I felt sad. I didn't feel like there was a fight coming. I was just trying to deal with all these things, and then all of a sudden the fight was there, and I felt numb. I didn't have any killer instinct. I had no real emotions. I had no real desire to fight. I didn't want to fight. And then when I went backstage, I was still pretty numb during the fight. I was getting hit and all these kind of things, and I had the armbar with it when they kind of run out with the clock, and that didn't even really disappoint me that much. But then when I got on the phone and I rang home, and my wife, she spoke to me, and then my daughter came on the phone, and then it all hit home. It all kind of, then the emotions came back in. So it was like really emotional up to the point of the fight. Then the fight occurred, and it was just a difficult time then when I rang home. But like it was good in the sense that I knew that, okay, a fight is a fight, but I'm going home to like tremendous people. But to be honest, the way I felt in the lead up to the fight and the way how I felt in Russia, I made my mind up that when I got home, I was going to see a therapist to talk these things, because like I said, I had no experience of trying to deal with these, and it was many years kind of manifesting, I suppose. And the work that I've done in since, I think I'm very proud of it. And I've been working with a therapist, I've been working with a sports psychologist, and like I feel like a much better developed person. You know what I mean? As a result, I feel much happier, much happier.
Well, firstly, I'm sorry to hear that you were feeling that way then, but I'm also very glad to hear that it sounds like you're in a much better spot now. And there's a lot to unpack kind of from what you just said there. So I guess, when you were in Russia, and how many hours did you say you weren't able to sleep for? Was it 53 hours, did you say?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, because like I was like I'm always very like in tune with my sleep and my headspace, my HRV, my heart rate, everything.
Yeah.
And like my heart rate was like always through the roof. I went 50 hours without sleep, 51 hours. I remember looking at my phone and trying to calm down, trying to get myself into a better state. And my Calm app had like 6 hours of meditating, and I still was like a coiled spring. There was no, usually if I do all these little interventions, or I have that help, but nothing was helping. It was just it was probably the worst period of my life, to be perfectly honest. And not that like bad things haven't happened to me before, but I just couldn't. I didn't have the tools to combat it, And I'm working with a phenomenal therapist. She's a fantastic woman. I'm working with a man Kieran McGeaney, from the sports psychology end of it, and between the two of them, I'm feeling fantastic. I feel amazing, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted a good opponent. I wanted a good opponent to show these improvements. But win, lose or draw, come February 25th, I feel like a better human anyway, like a better father, a better husband, a better everything. So I'm glad I made that step finally, and the only regret I have is not doing it sooner. But you can't turn the clock back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you mentioned having panic attacks in the lead up on fight week, in the lead up to the fight. Like, is this something that you've dealt with for a while? And maybe firstly, what was it like when you were having those panic attacks? Is there any way you can describe kind of that fight week?
Yeah. So, for instance, like I've struggled on and off with my mental health for 17 years, say 18 years, but it'd be periodic. It wouldn't be consistently. Like most. I've been unofficially diagnosed. I have an OCD, and but panic attacks were pretty, like I think I've maybe had one or two. It's either one or two in my whole life. And then in Russia, it was very common, like it was happening every day while I was there. And it was me panicking about not sleeping. It was me panicking about, of a fight, because I was so consumed with other thoughts that all of a sudden, oh, I'm fighting, you know what I mean? And it was just a very strange time, you know what I mean? But yeah, look at it. I just remember that hotel room, and I was just doing everything I could to try to get some sort of a release. I was having like in the shower at 4 a.m. Just to try and calm down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But look at it. I'm equipped with a much better outlook now. And again, talking to these people, and when I put up the post, I had people who reached out to me who'd been to people and spoke to professionals before, and how that impacted them, and that gave me, a kind of a boost to see that this is a good move. And then weeks later, then people messaged me saying that when I put that up, that they reached out to speak to a professional, and they're doing well. So I'm very happy that that people have done this. And one thing that people said after the fight is, oh, if you only had 10 more seconds, you would have finished him, perhaps. But I guarantee you, if I did, I more than likely wouldn't have went home and rang a therapist. I probably would have been on a high of winning a fight, let this pass, and then let it reoccur again. So these things, I suppose, happen for a reason. And here we are. I'm in a good place. I have a great fight ahead of me. I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited compared to the last time. I'm super excited to get back in there.
As weird as this is to ask, from the perspective of your mental health, are you glad that you lost?
It's weird. Yeah, look, it's a weird fight. I can't say that I'm glad that I lost, because nobody likes losing, especially someone who's super competitive like myself. However, like I really do not think I remember being in Russia and saying, right, when I get home, this is before the fight, when I get home, I'm making that call, I'm making that phone call. But I've said that plenty of times in the last decade or more, and something else would come in the way, or I wouldn't have time, or I would make or procrastinate, or I wouldn't commit to it. But this made me, and who knows, like, it's hard to explain to anyone who isn't a fighter, but when you win a fight, it's ecstasy, you know what I mean? And that can overshadow the days, the weeks that have just went. So perhaps, it probably was a good thing that I didn't get that armbar, I didn't get that triangle, or I didn't get that choke. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd probably be back to square one. All I do know is right now I'm in a better place than ever, and I'm so glad of that. I've always been a really good dad. I pride myself on being a really good, active, interested father, and how could you not be with the two girls that I have? But I feel like I'm much better now. Again, I feel like I'm a better husband, like I said, a better person, better friend. You know what I mean? So, I don't have regrets with what happened.
You mentioned that this is something that your mental health has been something you've been dealing with for decades now, but has it always kind of intertwined with fighting, or to what extent prior to the last camp has it had an impact on your fighting career, I guess?
Yeah, like I said, I would go through bouts of going through, like, being very anxious, of more so anxious than depressed, to be honest. And it would intertwine with fights, because when you are coming up to such a big contest, you want everything right. And, if things don't go right, you get more anxious. And of course, if you're going to fight a man, in the most real sport, there's a lot of anxiety around that. And other times I would be able to handle it well. I would always be nervous before a fight. I think every fighter is, but, I'd probably take it to the extreme. And often, the more nervous I am, the better I perform. But it's the lead up to it. Like, if I can stay, if I can handle my anxiety during camp, I put in better camps. I'm not so stifled, I'm not so, on edge. And I feel like that's been that has, stifled me before. However, look at it, whether it's like my therapist said, whether it's OCD or whether it's OCD traits of being, having a lot of anxiety, either way, there's kind of, there's good traits in that too. Like, I'm a very organized person. I can, like, I don't let things slip. I make sure everything gets done, in a sense, you know what I mean? So I've been able to use that in my fight game too, and I've kind of looked at it in a positive way since, of implementing other things that I won't get into. But, there obviously are downfalls, and I've been working on them flat out, really. And like I said, I'm in a really good spot.
That's great. And I guess kind of the recurring theme that I'm hearing is around control. And like, it must have been very difficult, like, prior to kind of putting this work in and getting to the place where you are now, to go into a fight. Or like, there's only so much in a fight camp, say, that you can control, and there's only so much in a fight that you can control. It must be very difficult to go into those situations where it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, control was kind of something that was important to you, and then to not have that when you're going into a fight, to an extent.
Yeah, so, like, for instance, one of the ways, just one example is, like, if I walked into a room and it was, like, untidy, I can't concentrate, I feel itchy, I feel like this thing has to be sorted before I can do anything. That was the way, it was I would consider it's the way I was. I'm not cured, you know what I mean, but I am a hell of a lot better. But that was the way I used to always think. That's just me, but it's not. It's me being anxious about something and not having control, but at least I can control this thing. Do you know what I mean? But it's learning that you can't control these things, but that's a trigger. If I'm feeling that I need to try and control this, I need to control this environment. Well, what is out of control, why am I anxious, and I can bring it back to that. So that's a trigger. I can identify that, and then I can sort out what actually is really going on. And that's been a huge help. So when I feel that way, I can go, okay, what is actually going on? What do I need to focus on? What do I need to work on? What's bothering me? And I can get to the root of it now, rather than, going mental at the house or the car or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And in a fight, it's trying to control that chaos, but there is no control. Anything can happen in a fight. And I'm aware of that, but the more I try to control it, the less and more stifled I was, you know what I mean? So, it's been a learning curve. I've been doing a lot of work, and I feel fantastic for it. And like I said, I'm proud of myself for doing it, because it took me a long time to do it, but it's been a big learning curve, and I've embraced it, and I feel like I'm doing very well.
A smile kind of came on your face there when you were talking about, you put up the post and people reached out and kind of could relate. And then when you put up the subsequent post about kind of the work you've been putting in, and more people could relate. When I picture, I guess, you're talking about being up for so many hours and days really over in Russia, it sounds very lonely. Like, was there a relief when people reached out to you to identify, to show that, look, you're not alone in these types of struggles?
Yes, but it kind of came after. Do you know what I mean? I needed like, it wasn't immediate because I hadn't dealt with anything as of yet. You know what I mean? I was so confused. Like, I was so confused of why, I felt like that. And like I said, I have felt like that for a number of years in times, but it just hit a peak. It hit like a pinnacle in a negative sense. And that pinnacle sounds like a good thing, but and I was so confused, and I needed to get to the bottom of it. And I had my first, therapy session, which was heavy. It was fucking very heavy. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was one of the best things I've ever done, and when I done that, and then people had messaged me, I went, oh yeah, now I know what they're talking about. Now I know. And like, nobody has reached out to me, or nobody in my years since I've been alive have said, yeah, I went to a therapist, it was shit. Yeah, I really regret it. No one has ever said that to me. And I don't think there's going to be too many people that would, it's not easy. There's a lot of tears. There's a lot of, but the thing is, you're working through it. There was a lot of tears when I was in Russia and during that camp too, but I didn't know how to sort things out, how to feel good. But at least you're working through it with a professional, and I think it's a really good way. And I'd recommend it to, don't let yourself get to a point where it's like, okay, now I need to do, go back the way and go quicker and don't regret it. You know what I mean? There's no harm in delving deep and seeing what's going on, and kind of trying to prevent it rather than trying to cure it as such.
Brian, shifting to your next fight. So Jornel Lugo.
Thanks.
Coming in. Get off the heavy topics.
Yeah.
No, firstly, I really appreciate the honesty. I know it's not easy. And fair play to you for reaching out and getting help, and really genuinely fair play to you. So moving on to the camp. I've seen videos yesterday of you sparring with I think it was Blessed Weddy, was it? In SBG HQ. How's the fight camp been going so far, and how are you feeling now that you're the new and improved Brian Moore 2.0? How are you feeling?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling absolutely fantastic. I've done so many good things physically for this camp. I've done a lot of new things. I've brought people in from like I spoke about, Kieran McGeaney has been absolutely phenomenal. He's an idol of mine anyway, a GAA legend. So to work with him in such a close capacity, and then of course the lady who I'm speaking to, these are just new additions to an already stellar team. But it's the love and the excitement is back. You know what I mean? I'm obsessed with mixed martial arts. I really am. Like, on the way up and down to Dublin, I'm listening to podcasts about Jack Dempsey, about Jack Johnson. I love martial arts, and that wasn't there for the last while. It was for the US fight, and then after that, with a few things that occurred, martial arts took a hike for a while. But to be back and to be this excited and to be this in love and enthralled in the game again has me excited. I cannot wait like every day I'm waking up with a smile on my face because I can't wait to have that tricolor and walking out in front of this crowd. You know, I've looked at it so many times. Like the last time I fought was against AJ McKee in Bellator 187. It feels like a lifetime ago. So to get and do that, to do that again is going to be unbelievable. But you know, I'm enjoying every single day as well. You know, every training session. They're tough. Don't get me wrong, they're fucking brutal, but I'm loving them. But yeah, Weddy, Lee Hammond, I'm sparring some really good guys, and they're giving me some great looks, putting in some great work. So you know, at the SBG at the minute, man, I've been there for over a decade now. It's the best I've seen it. You know, and it's we're putting in some great work for Bellator.
You touched on a point there that I really wanted to bring up to you. You're a proud Irishman. I know you're big into your Irish history, and you know you'll always say kind of for family and flag. You mentioned it's been over 4 years since you headlined against AJ McKee. I'm going to read out to you. So since then, you have fought in Budapest, Oklahoma, Birmingham, Milan, LA, and Moscow, everywhere. So what will it mean to Brian Moore when he walks out in front of a packed out Irish crowd for the first time in over 4 years?
It's going to mean the world, Andy, and I'm gonna really embrace it. Like I remember the last time I fought. Was it AJ or Voichel? I didn't carry my flag out. I was literally, I kind of had it in my head that, you know, soldiers don't carry flags, they carry their weapons. And I always regretted it because you're carrying your colours in front of your fans, in front of proud Irish men and women that have come to celebrate this with you. I'm coming out to an Irish song. I'm not going to say, but just trust me, you know the words of it. I guarantee your granny knows the words of it. I guarantee your little cousins know. Everybody will know the words of this. The trainer will be on their feet, and I can't wait to make that walk. I'm really going to embrace that, and I'm going to give it my all, like I always do. And like we go back to the US fight. You name every single fight, including Russia. I gave it my absolute best. But in Russia, when I gave it my best wasn't enough because I was a shadow of myself. Here you're going to get the best package, the best Brian Moore you've ever seen, and I'm excited as hell to perform.
Brian, where do you see yourself in the Bellator bantamweight division at the moment? There's obviously the Grand Prix has been announced. Where do you fit into it, everything?
It's I don't need to look past Jornel. Jornel will give me you know, he's going to be a difficult task to get by. He's I think he's similar in ways to me. He's very much a student of the game. I can see improvements every time he fights, and it'll be interesting to see what I bring, and it'll be interesting to see what he brings new, and never mind the skills that we already possess. But you know, I feel whoever comes out of this fight will be ready to get in there for any late replacement that's needed for this tournament. But I also think when this tournament is finished, they're going to be looking for the next contenders. Who's it going to be? You know what I mean? It's probably going to be that number 8. We've seen this with the featherweight division. We've seen it being cleared out, and we were left with Pitbull, and you're left with AJ. And now all of a sudden they're looking for more contenders because the 16 men that went into it, there was only 2 left, and there was only 1. Now they're looking for contenders, and I think this will be the same with the bantamweight division. So I think that whoever wins this fight is going to be in a very, very nice position, a very good, fortunate position. But you know, I've got a tough task. I know that, but so does Jornel. I hope he knows that too.
Who do you see winning the bantamweight? You know, actually, hang on. Let me caveat this. You're not allowed to say James Gallagher. Who do you see aside from James Gallagher winning the bantamweight Grand Prix?
You know, it's a hell of a tournament. I'm just regretting that. I just kind of wished it on a 16. I think they would have done it. I think it would have been tremendous, but maybe they didn't do it because of COVID. Maybe that's still lingering there. We're trying to get overseas fights, etc. You know, the way I see it, I think Horiguchi will be much hungrier after that loss. He'd probably feel a bit unfortunate with that loss. That being said, you can't you know, you can't overlook Pettis. There's a very skillful guy who's getting beat, and he showed hunger and he showed heart to come back and pull it out of the bag. Then you've got Magomedov, who's a killer. We've got the man who beat Magomedov in stats. So it's those 4, in my opinion. But if I had to pick one, I like Stotts, to be honest. And I think that a lot of people might be, I think most people are going to pick Horiguchi. I think next it'll be Pettis. But I think Stotts is a hell of a competitor, and he's shown his class there in his last fight in particular.
Brian, I appreciate the time. I have a couple more questions. So I know I've kept you here for a long time, but
Please, man, no.
Look, you're 34 years old now, and a lot of times I think if you said someone's a bantamweight, they're 34, you think, oh God, they're probably, winding down their career at this point. But when I listen to you speak now, I feel like you've got a whole new lease of life. And from, an outside perspective, I'd be shocked if you were thinking of hanging them up soon. Do you have like an age in mind when you want to stop fighting?
No, look, the way I see this, Andy, is I look back when I was 24. I always take a decade back. I'm a fitter, healthier, better operator. I'm a much better athlete than I was when I was 24. You can't argue with that. When you look at the numbers that I used to be doing back then, you look at the performances compared to right now. Add to that, I'm much less injury prone. Within training, I'm really conscious of taking headshots. I have two kids. I don't get hit in training. My training is very, very controlled. So if I was getting butchered in fights, if I was getting, my ass handed to me in training, it's the opposite. It's far from it. Maybe then I would think about it. But I'm getting better as the years go, and it's because of the hard work I put in. It's because of the diligence. It's because of the smart work that I'm putting in. So I haven't really got a time in mind. And one of the reasons why is when I was in my early and mid 20s, I would put a time frame on myself, but that would put me under pressure. If I would be saying, right, 26 now, if I haven't made it into a big show when I'm 28, I'm done. I'm walking away from this. I had job offers. I'm a qualified engineer. I could have done all of these things, but when I put a timeline on myself, it was just pressure. Now there's no need for pressure. I'm making good money with Bellator. I have a business. There is no pressure. I love what I do. When I stop loving what I do, that's when I walk away. You know what I mean? But there's no, I can see myself fighting for a number a lot longer. You look at the guys in the UFC that other champions that they're in their late 30s or even early 40s. I'm not saying that'll go till I'm 40, but you look at these guys. You look at some of the Bellator champs. They're not spring chickens themselves. They're not in their early 20s. You know what I mean? And I have a fire in my belly. It's still there. When it's gone, that's when I'll walk away from the sport.
Speaking of Bellator champions not being spring chickens, we've got Gegard Mousasi defending his middleweight title at the top of the card in Dublin.
Nice introduction for Gegard.
Did you see that transition there now? It's a great main card. I can't wait. We've got Peter Queally returning, fighting Kane Musa, but there's an all-Irish fight between Sinead Kavanagh and Liam McCourt. I spoke to both of them a couple of weeks ago. I can't wait for this fight. From an Irish perspective, we don't want to see one of them lose. We'd like to see both win, but how do you see that fight playing out, and are you excited for it?
Oh my God, I'm super excited for it. Obviously, I've an awful lot of time for Sinead. She's a teammate of mine now for a number of years. I just have a soft spot for Sinead. She's a lovely, lovely human and a hell of a fighter. I really like Leah. I was actually sitting beside Leah for the last Bellator. I had a good laugh with her. She's a lovely, lovely person too. It is almost a shame. I don't like seeing Irish versus Irish, but when you get to a bigger stage, then I feel like it's a good move. You know what I mean? We get to showcase just how good we are. But like I often see, we've seen it maybe going back 6-8 years. You had like the best Irish versus the best Irish, and there were such tough fights that a lot of them would drop off then. But like I said, when the guys get to a high level, when they're getting paid, well then yeah, go for it. But I would have to. Of course, I'm going to pick Sinead. She's my teammate. I'm going to pick Sinead to win that. But she has a tough night ahead of her. Both of them do. It's an insult to say it's a striker versus a grappler, because I know Sinead can grapple her ass off, and I know Leah can really put some really good strikes together too. So a very good matchup. It's going to be a hell of a fight, and that main card is magic, but the prelims are huge. It's going to be a hell of a night for Irish MMA. It's phenomenal.
100%. So when the cage door closes, Brian, what can the Irish fans expect from the Pikemen?
I'm going to give it my best, like I always do, but I'm going to come in prepared physically, mentally, in every other way, and I've no, there's nothing holding me back. I wish Jornel all the best in his prep. I'm just looking forward to representing family flag again, giving it my best, Andy, and here we go again.
Brian, I can't thank you enough for the time. Not only the time, but the honesty, the vulnerability. And look, I'm just delighted to hear that you're in a better place. And I think anyone watching this will be thinking the same way. And I hope that anyone listening or watching this can kind of take a bit of strength from your story and your experience, because it's not easy, to face up to demons, I suppose you could call them. So yeah, again, Brian, really appreciate the time. I can't wait. We've got Bellator 275 Friday the 25th of February in Dublin's sold out 3 arena. It'll be on Virgin Media. We'll put up whatever other coverage details closer to the time. But for now, Brian the Pikeman Moore, appreciate the time, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Andy, thanks so much, man. Thank you.